finally, I'm going to talk about shifts in the supply curve. So there's three main things that can shift the supply curve that we talk about in economics. Now, it's important to remember that the supply curve moves rightward if there's more supply, and it leads to an equilibrium point, which I've labeled C as a lower price and a higher quantity. So in this case, they go in opposite directions. We saw up here was a higher price and a higher quantity. So if you go from A to C, you'll see that things are produced cheaply, and actually there's more of them. If you go the other direction, you'd see more expensive, fewer products. So that's one way to tell if you got the right answer. It kind of makes sense in terms of what you might think in terms of common sense. So the big three movers are technology, input costs, and the number of sellers. Now what does this mean? Technology usually goes in the one direction only. Improvements in technology, things like the internet, or before that the telegraph or the telephone, means more business can get done and it costs less. It's much easier to send even a document over email. 20 years ago was a fax machine. You had to find an actual fax machine. Before that you mailed it and it took days and you had to pay for a stamp. So the internet means you can get more documents, more papers written, etc. with fewer costs, price goes down, and you can get more work done. Technology rarely goes the other direction. Now, input costs do go the other direction. Now, this is important. Anything that makes it easier to do business. I said oil, wages, and taxes are three big ones. But cheap oil, cheap gasoline, means more business gets done at a lower price. Low taxes, a lot of times people talk about. And then finally, wages. If workers work for less money, you might see more business get done at a lower cost. But at the same time, high gasoline prices might go this direction to this point D. And any company that delivers anything uses oil, whether you know it or not. You might actually see fewer deliveries, less range in terms of where products go, and prices get marked up to cover the oil prices. So this point right here, point D, might be because of high oil prices, high labor costs, or high taxes. At the same time, you might have this third one, number of sellers. As people enter the marketplace, they push prices down because of competition, and they also might have more done because there's more people. Right, so if people leave the marketplace, you might see the opposite, that it's harder to find competition, so prices go up, and there's also less quantity done. So that's important. So both of these can move simultaneously. So we could combine a supply shift with a demand shift and have two at once, but it's important to notice this before we do that, that if I move supply this way, demand does increase. Now a lot of times students don't remember this, but this point from A to C, this does have a change in demand, so you don't have to move both curves at once. Now, sometimes students think, well, if there's better technology and there's more products produced, don't people need to buy them? Doesn't demand shift? The answer is yes. Demand shifts along the curve. If technology or low oil prices, low taxes push the price down, consumers will enter the marketplace and move along the curve because of the low price. And so you can have one shift in a whole curve and one movement along the other curve. You don't have to move the situation, move both curves at once. Only if both situations change. I could combine high income and low taxes, for example, but I don't have to. There is a change in demand if supply moves. Just like if I move demand, people want a product, businesses will respond to the high price. So you can move along one curve as you're shifting the other. So those are the main shifts of supply and demand. Demand is income, prices, tastes and preferences, and buyers. But if you talk yourself through it, you can sort of imagine that it's something that makes people want more of the product. At the same time, supply is technology, input costs, and the number of sellers. But if you can imagine something that makes businesses want to produce more, that way you can talk yourself through any test question. The end result is to get to P and Q. Can you predict what happens to prices? Can you predict what happens to quantity? If you can do that, then you can help make a decision that saves you money or makes you money, depending on whether you are a buyer or a seller.